Now to a story from within our very own ABC News family. We, of course, know ABC Chief International Correspondent James Longman for bringing us stories from all over the world.
Now James is opening up about his own story. In his new memoir, The Inherited Mind, he explores the genetics of mental illness and shares his personal struggles in hopes of helping others. James joins us here in studio. So lovely to have you.
So lovely to be here. Thanks for having me.
And in this book, it's interesting because you open it up with the moment that you find out, you're 9 years old, that your father has committed suicide. Why did you choose to start it there?
Well, I think a good book, you've got to hook people in, and it's a moment, right? But it's the moment that my life changed. I went from being this kind of innocent kid whose life was much like most other people's to finding out that the man who, was the most important man in my life had died. And then it was the beginning of a journey figuring out actually that it didn't start with him, that there's patterns of mental illness in my family. He had schizophrenia, he ended his life. I wasn't told that he had ended his life at that time, that only came later. But his brother, my uncle, also had schizophrenia. My grandfather also ended his life. My mother has clinical depression, and I have had deep sadness over the years. So I've always wondered, is it written in my code? Was this inevitable? Was this always going to happen? And plus, I just wanted to find out about my dad. I just wanted to make him more than his illness. With these things, it's so much, the thing that defines you, especially because he ended his life. But I wanted to find out who John Longman was, so.
And you continue to talk about your experience growing up. In Chapter 7, you write, two feelings defined my younger and teenage years, shame and anger. And you talk about it being invited to all of these holiday parties and events, by other kids' families and wanted to go, and you were there. It was so colorful, yet you felt like a black and white picture inside. Do you still deal with that?
I do. Look, I think we are surrounded in our culture, right, by ideals. Ideals of beauty, ideals of youth, ideals of family, what we should be like, what family looks like, must look like. And I realized growing up that my family wasn't normal, it was dysfunctional, and I really didn't have anybody. I was an only child, my father had died, and then my relationship with my mother basically fell apart. So my whole life I've been looking for family, right, and figuring out who I am. We obsess over these things, we always have, from Shakespeare to Game of Thrones, Succession. Family dynamics fascinate us, right, and they've always fascinated me. But doing the book really was an effort to try to heal some of the relationships that got damaged by his suicide.
So often we see you in the most tragic of places. You cover a lot of war zones. How has your personal life experience affected how you cover these really difficult stories?
Yeah, it's funny, I'm drawn to sadness, but and I don't want that to be depressing for people. I don't want people at home also to think that I'm this kind of really sort of sad guy who likes going to tragic places. That's not true. I'm drawn to these places because they make me feel something. I feel like it gives me purpose to have my emotions activated by the places I go. And the thing that really motivates me is to show people that we are resilient. Human beings have resilience. Wherever I go in the world, Ukraine, Syria, Israel, whatever I'm doing, I'm finding people who are going through something horrible, who are teaching me and hopefully the audience that whatever you're going through, you can get through it. And that's the message of the book.
When we see you from the outside, you don't look like what you've been through. What is your biggest fear, internally and externally?
My biggest fear is not having a community, and I think repeating the things that happened to my father, what he lacked was community. And I think for me, that would be my greatest fear, would be to repeat the mistakes that were made around him and around isolating him, essentially. People with these illnesses need to be supported. And for me, I'm very lucky because I have married a man who is just extraordinary and his family is amazing. And so the message really of the book is, yeah, you can come from a place which hasn't been that functional, but you can always build a better future. Yeah.
And you do have a beautiful life and a beautiful husband.
Yeah, he's amazing. I love Alex so much, and his family has been amazing. And I just want to say, his sister has been in a coma actually since before New Year. She's been very sick. And Darian, on New Year's Eve, I was on the phone to you and you were giving me the support and the knowledge to understand what the doctors were telling you. When someone is sick in the hospital, you don't really understand. They're telling you all this stuff and your mind is frazzled. You're dealing with someone who's unconscious. And I just need to thank you. You were so good. It was so wonderful to have that support from across the pond. So thank you.
Always.
Yeah, we love Dr. Darian too. And your book, James, is going to help so many people. And you, I mean, you're such a light. It's such an enjoyment to get to spend time with you. You can pick up The Inherited Inherited Mind wherever books are sold, or scan that QR code right there at the bottom of your screen if you'd like to purchase a copy. And if you are experiencing suicidal thoughts, substance use, or other mental health crisis, please call or text the National Suicide Prevention Helpline at 988 or visit 988lifeline.org. You will reach a trained crisis counselor for free 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Help is out there.